Welcome to the Phorest FM podcast, episode 91. I'm Killian and Vigna.
And I'm Zoe Belisle-Springer. This week we're talking about appointment books and turning the unmanageable into more than manageable. We're talking about clients flying across borders to get the legendary 90-minute facials that our guest on the show today offers. Curious? So are we, so stay tuned. And as always, we'll top off the show with our latest announcements and upcoming Phorest Academy webinars.
So, grab yourself a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and join us weekly for all your salon's business and marketing needs. Good morning, Zoe.
Good morning, Killian.
So, last week we actually had we had a bit of a change in the schedule, and we're finally back to normal. Or, sorry, it was last week. It was 2 weeks ago when we did a bit of a live one at a protest demo in Ireland. So, it's good to be back to reality now, back in a nice warm studio. And no wind, no loud buses or anything in the background. As you said, we're talking about filling up your appointment book.
Yeah, and we're not talking about filling an appointment book like a week in advance or even, a month in advance. We're talking a year. And when I was first chatting to Susan Routledge, who introduced me to our guest today, I was like, how do you get to that point of booking in appointments for a year's time, So without further ado, we'd like to welcome Katt Philipps, salon owner of Grafin Skin Beauty in Oak Brook Terrace, Illinois. Welcome to the show, Katt.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I'm delighted. Like last time we spoke on the phone, we ended up having, an hour conversation or something like that. It was really fun.
We did get a little chatty. It's okay, though. You were worth it.
Please be chatty on the show.
We'll include you. We'll make sure we include you, Killian. Don't worry. So before we even get to start discussing diaries and appointments, I suppose, when we were last chatting, yourself and I kind of realized that we were quite similar in certain ways where we kind of packed our bags and headed off to new adventures. And you ended up doing a 10-year stay working in Hollywood. I think it'd be a great introduction to the show. Do you want to share a bit of a background, how that happened, how you got into the industry, kick it off from there, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was kind of a weird start for me. I was going to school for philosophy, finished with all my schooling, and I just really remember hearing a newscast or an announcement that I was going to be one of the first ever generations that was never going to be able to do as well as our parents. And, here I had this new piece of paper that said that I had done all my studies and I had done really well, but there were really no jobs available. So I imbibed a little bit too much. And so got really drunk one night right after graduating. And I got the idea to write down everything I'd ever gotten paid for in my life, one of which were doing makeup in a couple of school plays for my college. And then it ended up with me throwing a dart at the map of the United States, which landed on Southern California. And the next day I took all of my stuff, put it in the car, and drove across country. So I moved out there without a friend in the world. I had my cat, and I had no idea what I was going to do. So all of the things that I'd written on that list, I started making resumes for and sending out. And the first thing that I ever bit was for a little film called Game Day. And it was actually a student film that was being done. So I jumped on that. And from that, I met a really nice guy who turned out to be a producer for the TV show Friends. And so I had no idea who he was when I met him, but after I'd finished that film, he started hiring me for all sorts of stuff, and it started a 10-year career. So I did that for a while. Then I met my husband, and 6 weeks after I met him, I told the studio I was working for that I didn't need him anymore. I was in love, and drove back across the country to reinvent myself again. So it's kind of a theme in my life. I've done it 3 times now. So hopefully I won't have to do it again. I think that I've found the right bed if I'm Goldilocks and the 3 bears.
I'm just laughing. You've managed to do this 3 times. If that was me now on a night out, I'd just wake up with nothing but like sympathy for myself and curl up into a ball and repeat the whole thing over again. At least you actually managed to get something out of it.
Yeah, my husband doesn't let me drink much just because it does end up with a Korean invention.
Hides a drink, hides the darts, and no maps allowed.
Exactly.
So I suppose, like Zoe was saying, it's all about kind of how you fill your appointment book. And with that, anyone listening to the show is probably thinking, oh yeah, well, you probably rely heavily on marketing and really a lot of emphasis on salon branding and getting your salon out there. But that's not necessarily the case for you, because Zoe was saying that you actually don't do a whole lot of marketing in general.
I don't. I mean, I I think my total budget for marketing for the year is less than $600. And most of that's just in printing for things that go into baskets that I give away at charity events. So I don't do a lot, but most of it is because I am so booked now that when I do market, I end up having to say no to more new people than I am able to say yes. I even had a couple of instances where people would try to get in on my books. And so the way that they would do it is they would buy themselves gift cards. And so I have to refund their gift cards because I can't get them in. And so it's been really interesting. And it's been about a year that it's been like this. And we started doing the year-long booking, and it has just been amazing for me. And it's actually been amazing for a couple of my other girlfriends that own their own salons, because if I can't take them, I do push them over to other salons and other technicians that I really believe in.
So at the start, how did you get so in demand? I suppose like now you have that full year, people know that they have to book in a year in advance or they can't get in. But before that, you were also very much in demand. So where did that come from?
I ended up with, absolute first world rich people problems. And I had so much demand on my books. I was booking, 1-2 appointments out tops, but I was really at the risk of losing my best clients because they would call and I tell them I couldn't get them in for 3-4 months because we just didn't have, I was booked so far in advance, and it was really a huge problem. And so I was listening to a new podcast. It was from Adam Chatterley. He's got the Beauty Business Hackers, and I really loved it. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, I just think it's awesome to hear a dude that's talking about, beauty. Thank you so much for doing it. And he reached back out to me and he goes, well, if there's anything I can do to help you with, let me know. And I told him, I don't really know that anybody can help me with it. And I explained the problem, that I had so many people demanding my books that I was actually starting to lose clients. And he was really funny. He said, you're right. I have no idea how to handle that either. but maybe my friend Susan does. And he introduced me to Susan Rutledge. And in the first phone call that we had, she's just, why don't you just book them out for a year? And it was the most bizarre thing I had ever heard in my life. And she didn't know, she had not done it. So she didn't really know how to do it, which I found out later. But so it was like almost like I was like this experiment, but reaching out for help and kind of saying, God, I just can't handle this on my own. And even having something great from like a place of abundance, but really needing help, realizing that, and kind of send me that life preserver. And I got off the phone and instantly I started talking to all my VIPs and saying, hey, do you want to book in? Let's book in for a year so you never have to worry about this again. They were so thrilled. I was so afraid to ask my clients of something because they're always asking me for stuff. But this is the first time I ever took really strong hold of my business and started asking my clients for stuff. And it ended up being such an amazing thing. I only had one person say that they didn't want to do it, and they ended up coming back around, and now they're booked for a year. And about 6 months into having my year-long booking, they started asking me, can I book for 2019? And so now I'm even 60% booked for January of 2020. I just checked this morning. So it's been a wonderful thing. It's got some ups and downs, and it's been a lot of figuring it out. But I highly recommend it for anybody that can do it. And I've really worked out how you can book this way, even if you start from a brand new business.
Quick question before we get into that, because I definitely want to hear more about that. But what would be your ratio between new clients and return clients in your business at the moment?
I'm 97% return clients.
Wow.
Yeah, now you are.
And I'm 97% now. Before I started doing this, I was at 92% return. And as of last month, because I keep counts on how many people that I refer out to salons that I sort of partner with, and the last month I referred out 37 clients.
Jesus.
So do you know on average how many times each of those clients would be booking back in with you over the span of 12 months?
It depends on what their appointments are for. Most of my client base is based on that they come in 4 times a year. If we were working on something really big, they'll come in 6 weeks. I do have some people with acne that come on as frequently as every 4 weeks. Waxing is every 4 weeks. And so we just really kind of set them out. And I've had my business for 5 years, so I can kind of see where their comfort zone is. Some people want to go to every 8 weeks, but they've been coming every 6, so we'll book them every 7, and it's just worked out great.
Yeah, because I just had if you look at the reviews on your website, there's actually the very first testimonial I see was a client and her daughter had actually moved out of state and still managed to work with you remote.
Yeah.
So, like, you're not just rebooking them in for their next 1 or 2 appointments.
Mm-mm.
You know that you're pretty much getting them booked in every month or every 2 months.
Yep. And so, like I said, I think probably the average is about every 10 weeks. But I now, the ones that tend to be trickier are the ones that are out of town or out of country. I do have a gal who lives in Europe, and I just drop everything whenever she comes in, and we just figure it out. We've done pajama party facials for her. So there's always people.
So I suppose it's fair to say that attracting new clients was never really an issue for you, or is that something that you still kind of had to build up yourself over the years?
I really had to build, because when I left my old salon, we left on really good terms, and I originally had a do not compete, and I didn't want to break that. So I actually didn't reach out to any of my clients. But what I did do in hopes that somebody would find me is that I knew the general area that people were living in. And so I put a flyer in every single mailbox for entire zip codes, to be able, with a photo of myself on it with my new location, hoping that somebody would recognize me. And I got very lucky, and someone did. And I became the talk of the small town that they all lived in during all the summer parties and stuff. And so that grew very quickly, but that was really only maybe 25% of the hours that I did. And so a lot of it has been, just sucking it up and saying, hey guys, if you want me to stay open, I need to know your family. I need to know your friends. I promise that I'll treat them really well. And so I had a lot of it was based on referrals. And then once you start getting reviews, and those reviews are looking really great, I have a lot of people who've never even heard from me. And so it's really the Yelp reviews that drive people to me, because that is the advertising nowadays.
Yeah, and that's how I suppose you can cut down on your marketing budget, is because it is your online reputation. If someone is looking for the closest salon to them, they're just going to go straight to Google now and see what pops up in reviews.
Yeah, it's crazy how much that's changed.
To go back to that one thing that you said earlier, like there was two. There was the pros and cons of having that year fully booked. And I'm assuming that includes turning away new clients. But there was also ways to do that if you're actually starting off from scratch. And that is something I definitely want to hear more about. Like, looking back at yourself when you started that salon, putting flyers everywhere, how would you now do it and book yourself a year out in advance if you were to do that all over again?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is when you've kind of done it, you sit back and you know who your favorite clients are. You know who, when you see them on your book, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to get in. And I think that if I had known at the very beginning of my career to really figure out what my ideal client was. And then for me, when I kind of built my business and I kind of built my stable, if you will, of clients, I always saw it as like making the best cocktail party, because I had this dream of being able to throw a cocktail party for a charity and have all of my clients come. And I just in my heart believed that they would all get along. And I tested that theory a year ago, and they did. They all got along. It was awesome. So we had this giant cocktail party of everybody getting along. But when you realize and you start building your business and you're based on that everybody's kind of going to get along, you realize that when you get one of those people in, you're like, oh my gosh, she would get along with this and this and this, and then she gets along with me. When you get one of those clients that are your dream client, lock them down. book them out the whole time, because when you're first starting, you really do, you take everybody. And then there's people that you love and people that you don't love. And the people that you don't love, rebook them, but rebook them one. But the ones that you really are in love with and you're excited to see them again, you're excited to build a relationship, hopefully like a lifelong relationship with, then, get them on your book so you always have them there. And then you just, and then you start becoming in demand, because when you start doing that, you look out after a few months of doing it. And then, this day is almost completely booked, or that day is, it's so thrilling to look more than a year in advance and see that I know what I'm going to be doing. I know what I'm going to be making. I know what I'm going to be seeing. It's huge. And you start making the big changes and big decisions so much easier because you know where you're going to be.
Yeah, you have that financial, I suppose, clarity of mind or peace of mind that this is going to come in at this time, and that you can plan for this other thing. And actually, speaking of which, is that how kind of your other business venture came into play?
It did. So Petal and Herb is my online retail store that I have connected in with my business. And then I also have all of my retail. I do give 10% to charity every quarter. We pick a different one all the time. But Petal and Herb came in because I'm a one-woman show. I don't have a front desk. I don't have it, like literally it's just me. And it had become very stressful for people to get more of their products, because if they came in, I was probably with a client. And so I did it originally as, shipping every Wednesday, and then there was more and more demand on it. And then we built the website. So now we have that piece of it. And now that is being turned into an affiliate program for other people other professionals that are kind of in my scenario that don't feel comfortable having all that money sitting on their shelves. So if they need to give a product to their client, they can actually do that through my site, and then they actually will get a portion of the proceeds for it. So it's kind of a neat new venture. It's fun to see, and it's fun to watch other people's businesses grow.
Yeah, and it's great for them to not have overstock sitting there that's just collecting dust. It's basically pay as you go.
Yeah, it's really scary when you have all that money sitting there. And it's nice for us because ours turns so fast. So it's really fresh.
So you mentioned something there that you're actually a one-woman show, and we're talking about how you managed to fill your books. You're not a huge salon, are you? You're still like how many of you are in the salon for you to keep your books full up?
Okay, so there's myself, and I'm full-time, and then I have a gal who she works about 10 hours a week, and she works the times that I'm not in the salon. I will say I do have a VA, and I'm really, really thrilled to have somebody do that. And so when I have my new paperwork come in and things like that, she digitizes it all for me and just saves my butt. And then my husband is really good at making sure my SEO and those things are done. I do write my own website now, but he tweaks it so it actually works.
That's amazing, because anyone listening to this early in the show would have just, like, I know I would have assumed that you're a salon of about 20 staff and you've built it up from one up to a load, and now you've got your online store, and it makes it sound like this huge business, but it is at the end of the day all down to you, essentially.
Yep, it is all me. And I just had to make the decision that I wanted to be kind of a small giant. They always talk about, you get to a certain spot that you need to start hiring people so you get away from the chair. And I was really at that point. I was at the point of getting real estate and doing a build out and doing all of those things. And it really dawned on me that what makes me wake up in the morning is that, my clients, I know who they are. I know who their husbands are. I know who their kids are. I know what's going on in their lives. And the thought of not being able to have that one-on-one time and without any distractions just killed me, because I have such a different view of the world than most people, because I get to see other people kind of at their most vulnerable, because their makeup is gone, their clothing is in a basket on the other side of the room. But there's no cell phones, there's no buzzing, there's no whizzing. I mean, we have these incredible conversations. It's almost like life coaching for me and for them, and it's such a special look at the universe.
Coming from the Hollywood industry, moving into this business venture and kind of giving yourself time back from managing that whole book, I suppose, does that help on the personal side of your life?
It's been absolutely amazing. And it scared me at first because at first the phone stopped ringing because no one was calling me at all hours. I got to get in, because they were already in. So that gave me a ton of time back. I also realized that all the time that I was spending on Instagram and social media with really no traction wasn't really helping me because I was already where I needed to be. So it gave me tons of kind of out of the limelight hours that I was just in my small office toiling away. It gave me so much of that back. And so now my husband and I, we're starting a little micro farm together, and it's been so wonderful for us, but it's also allowed me, even from a business side, to do really what I wanted, is because these people are also important to me. Now I have time to write birthday cards. I have time to, call people or text people like, congratulations on your anniversary, and baby announcements and all those things that make us human. I'm able to do that because I'm no longer on this treadmill that's set to 10 and I can only really run at a 2.
Spending your life catching up.
Yeah.
So by booking clients essentially a year in advance and controlling your appointment book, do you still work the standard it's not standard for the salon life, but we'll say the kind of the 9 to 5, or do you pick and choose your days and hours now?
I pick and choose my days and hours, but when I'm setting them up, I go through and my top, what I consider my 25 people that I can't live without. So I call them first when I'm booking, and I book all of them out, and I let them set. I already know when my vacations are, but I let them set what my early days and my late days are by their appointments. And from that, I back it up and make sure that I'm only doing how many set hours that I want to have, because I have part of this came about because of some health issues that I was having, and that I just couldn't do the big, long, epic day anymore. And so it's been really nice is that I still work a 10-hour day, but now I get a lunch, which is really rare in my industry. So, and it's a little bit more human, but I do allow those people that I wake up for in the morning to decide what days I work and what days I have off.
You mentioned that these are like your ideal clients, your dream clients. They're the clients that you love. What are your no-shows and cancellation rates like? Do they still affect you then?
No-shows are really, I think I probably have maybe 3 or 4 a year.
Wow.
So I don't have a lot of no-shows. Cancellations do happen, but normally it's something epic. Like yesterday, I had a cancellation because she was in a car accident. She was okay, but so we had that. But so it was horrible. But most of the time, if I do get a cancellation, they all know how in demand I am, and so I always ask them to let me know at least 24 hours in advance, and then I just shoot out an email telling people that I have this opening, and then because I use online booking, it takes maybe 2 minutes before it gets booked, and then the hardest thing is this, which I've now put over to my VA, is all the emails that flood in going, "Is your system working right? Is it already gone?" I'm like, yeah, it's already gone. But it's really fun. And so now also when I do send those out, I do send them out, and the bottom of it I put kind of in a postscript because our skin is really changed by the weather that we have here. I'll put on there that we're about to have a cold snap. Make sure that you put your ceramides on before you go to sleep, or turn on your humidifier, or remember your sunscreen. So I always put a little bit of value in those emails, so when they get them, they're not just annoying.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always great to share that sort of. So it's not just the same standard email coming in every time. It's something new to look forward to.
Yeah, it's almost like whack-a-mole when I send out those emails. Like, people just jump on them so fast.
So I suppose, what's next for you? Like, up to January 2020, you said earlier. what are the next steps? Is it a new business venture? Are you like working towards this other completely different project? I know you were mentioning the farm as well with your husband. What's coming?
Well, I am in the process of building a new website. It's called The Beauty Educator, and currently it's just a landing page off my other website because I couldn't get it together as fast as I had hoped to for this podcast. So what we're doing is I've just decided that I have such abundance and everything has been so wonderful for me, and it's been because I reached out and got some help. And so now with the Beauty Educator, I'm hoping to be able to bring short, little tiny pieces of information that you could do that are an hour, hour and a half, 30 minutes that you can do to very quickly change your business. Because I look forward to working every day and I've finally unraveled the rat's nest that was this prior to making all these switches, and they're easy to do. Just sometimes we need a little help and a little push and a little research done. And so I'm hoping to be able to put that up for people to be able to enjoy what they're doing as much as I do.
So what's best then, I suppose, for someone looking into changing something in their business like dramatically? Is it getting help? Is it, trying to move from, essentially doing your jump from booking month on month or 3 months in advance to booking a year in advance? Like what are the next steps for people? What can they start with? Is it simply just mentoring and getting help?
I think mentoring and getting help is always important because every once in a while you end up with something where you're just stuck. And somebody who's good at mentoring is going to be able to ask the right questions so you unstick yourself rather than give you exactly the right way to do it. And so that I think that's very, very helpful. But most of it, you just kind of have to put your big girl panties on and just take the leap. Once you jump out of that plane, you never really know for sure if you've got a backpack on or if you have a parachute. Hopefully you have a parachute. But if you're already in this industry, you've already known that if you fall flat on your face, you can get up and pick back up. And this is one of those things is that you can do it if you work for somebody else. You can do it if you work for yourself. It's just taking charge of your own business.
I have to say, we have just on this podcast, we have video footage here so we can all see each other. You look incredibly relaxed. You just look so relaxed and at ease. Yeah. So it's like considering your appointment book is full out for till January 2020 you were saying, and we could even slot a bit of time in ourselves. Obviously this is working for you, so give it a shot. People, give it a try.
Best thing I ever did. It really is. I mean, in the worst case scenario, you just go back and book them the way you used to.
Well, listen, Katt, thanks a million for joining us on the show today and some really good advice there. We hope our audience or our listeners can benefit from this and take action. Find the help, put your big girl panties on and just jump into it. Thanks a million for joining us today.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And good luck to you guys. I love the podcast.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
So that was Katt Philipps from Grafin Skin Beauty in Illinois. And now to move over to more forest-related matters. So we have a big new feature announcement here, Zoe, and this one is the brand new email editor that we have in Phorest.
Really excited about that one. Like, it looks fantastic with all the images integration and stuff with Unsplash. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a massive step forward. So basically, what is so different about it? It comes pre-packed with a writing mentor. So if anyone's heard of Pro Writing Aid, it's a tool that includes like spell checking, dyslexic specific grammar checking, and can even provide some professional writing tips. So like if I highlight a word, it can give me alternative words, just like a thesaurus. Loads of writing professionals out there use it, and now we have that feature free in the Phorest email editor. So that's a big plus straight off the bat. So then the second one we have is Unsplash. So what is Unsplash? It's basically a collection of royalty-free images to use. So in the Phorest email editor, you can actually search over 500,000 images that we can use, all from Unsplash, and you don't need to give any credit to them. So that's going to be a big impact for your emails, and you can always send yourself test emails and download those graphics too. What else have we got then? We've a Phorest image editing tool embedded in the Phorest email editor. Now this one's actually pretty cool because this came off the back of things of like Canvas, for anyone that's familiar with that out there. You have a basic photo editor where you can just change like the focus settings, add filters, frames, add text. But we have then an advanced editor too. So when you click into that, you can do so much more. So you can basically, it's like a really baby version of Photoshop. It's just brilliant. It's really easy to use, and it just makes those emails look so much more powerful. And then we have other simple things like the booking links. You can now customize those call to actions a bit better. On top of that, we have even deeper analytics. So you can track your opens, your clicks. You can see if an email was delivered to a client or if it failed. So if it failed, you'd know then, all right, that email address is wrong and I need to get that checked. But most importantly, and this is really cool, you can now see how much revenue your email campaign has generated. And when you break it down by your audience list, so you see that this email was sent to Mary, she opened it, clicked it, made a booking, and I can hover over it and I can see what that booking was and how much that's generated. So that's going to be a very big one for breaking down your analytics.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be a game changer. Like, I don't say this often, but this is definitely something incredibly powerful is the word, I think. Yeah. Other than that, keep tagging us on social media. We really like to see what you're up to. So we want to see more of that. We want to interact more with you guys. You might have noticed if you're in the salon, the 30 Days to Grow Salon Facebook group, the group name has changed. So you can check that out there. It's called Let's Grow, the Salon Owners Tool to growing their business. And otherwise, I mean, that's it for us today. If you know someone with an interesting story for this podcast, do slide into Phorest DMs. And as you know, we're always keen on feeding off your ideas. So if you have any feedback, feel free to leave us a review on iTunes or on Stitcher. We're always looking for suggestions on how to improve the show. Otherwise, have a wonderful week, guys. We'll catch you next Monday.
All the best.